Now we transition over smoothly to something that must be discussed because we are all about checking the boxes here. All right, it's all about playing the hits. LeVar's guy Shedeur Sanders had a little bit of a rough go of it.
LeVar's guy Shedeur
A little bit
Sanders.
of a rough go of it this weekend.
I could take that.
Looked a little bit different than the previous game that he participated in. He took a bunch of bad sacks. I think he completed 3 passes, threw for, I think, negative 14 yards, something like that. But not all that great. And so now the conversation becomes, what next? He wanted to stay in for the final 2-minute drive. Kevin Stefanski pulled him out and said, no, we're going to go with Snoop, who later got released. And so now the discussion turns to what happens with Shaduer. It appears like he's going to make the roster, but I don't know how anybody could argue that, he climbs the depth chart above Dillon Gabriel after what we've seen. I think that ship sailed.
Here's the thing is no one's trying to make that argument now. What the argument they're trying to make is that Kevin Stefanski has it out for him and the Browns organization has it out for Shedeur Sanders. And this was all a setup. The position they put him in, the plays they called during when he was in the game versus Dillon Gabriel. I was actually so motivated, I'll put it that way, by social media last night to go back through and break down all of this just to kind of put it to bed. There are so many misconceptions with what's being spewed on social media. And look, maybe they're just people who are trying to gaslight. Like maybe that's what this is. And that's what social media is kind of becoming now is you got to get a reaction out of people. So you have to say things that are just absolutely ridiculous. Or there's just certain people who view this world in a certain prism and that's not going to change. And those people seem to come out of the woodwork for sports when they never lived there in the first place. And by the way, like here's the things that I heard. The play calls when Dillon Gabriel was in were quick hitters and he got the ball out quicker. And then when Shaduer goes in, they're these max protection, take forever, but he's getting sacked all the time, even though they knew they couldn't protect him. Okay. Let's break that down quick. You know what the biggest difference was between Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders? When Dillon Gabriel got to his back foot, he was decisive. He got the ball out of his hand. Shedeur Sanders had a number of opportunities to go to his first read or second read or an underneath route that he chose not to go to. That's not on Dillon Gabriel, the coaching staff, or anyone else. And it's one of the things I brought up in the last time we saw Dillon Gabriel out. And really when Shaduer played well too, they both looked good. The difference was there was something crisp and quick about Dillon Gabriel and just how he kind of has an understanding for the timing and rhythm of NFL offenses when the ball's thrown with timing and anticipation. Shaduer took a lot of sacks in college. And it wasn't just because his O-line wasn't great. It wasn't great at Colorado. He holds on to the football for an eternity. So that's the first issue. That was an issue in college. It seemed to be a bit of an issue, at least in the 2 preseason games we've seen. Even when he played well in the first one, the ball wasn't coming out quite as quick. The other issue he has, and one of the reasons why a lot of the pressure and things were exacerbated, is because Dillon Gabriel, if you watch him, when he gets to the back of the pocket, he steps up. He works through it. He kind of navigates up back towards the line of scrimmage. Shaduer does something very similar. And by the way, it's not just Shaduer. I said this about Bryce Young his rookie season after I called a game. A lot of these college quarterbacks, they get this bad habit of when they drop back, they turn their hips parallel to the line of scrimmage. It right away eliminates half the field. If you're a right-handed quarterback and your hips are parallel to the line of scrimmage as you're standing there in the pocket or trying to navigate where to go, yes, you can run forward, but you've cut off the entire right half of the field, at least being able to throw down the field, midfield, anywhere. Maybe you can adjust your arm quickly, throw something short, but it's basically middle of the field to the left side of the field. The defense has already won. They already don't have to cover half the field because they got you to get into a bad habit of opening your hips like that. You'd like to be like a boxer climbing up through the pocket, maintaining the ability to throw your right hand. So your really hips should be perpendicular to the line of scrimmage. So Bryce Young had that habit. He was able to kind of kick it a bit last year too in some of what he was doing. Because naturally when you drop back like that, you get to the back of the pocket, you want to run out to the sides. You don't want to actually step up into the pocket where that's your safe haven. That's your safe spot. That's how the O-line coach is coaching those tackles to push those edge rushers by you. But you have to set the pocket and then step up into it. So he's got to figure out a way of developing that habit and kicking this old kind of college habit that a lot of quarterbacks fall into the habit of when they transition from college to the NFL. Now, was he playing with the best guys, the ones and twos? No. But Dillon Gabriel had to deal with that sometimes too. And by the way, as a quarterback, you have to deal with that at times. I remember playing in Denver last game of the season when I was with the Chiefs. We had a backup left tackle. We had a guard who we had just signed, I think, 2 or 3 weeks prior. Another guard who we signed like week 4 during the season. We had another player who was wearing a club on his right hand. I mean, it was as patchwork as you can get. And guess who they had? Von Miller on one side, DeMarcus Ware on the other. Have fun going up against that. Like, that's what you're going to be tasked with. So this is just a preseason game. Like, we don't need to overreact about the performance of Shedeur Sanders and make this a racial thing or make this a Kevin Stefanski and this team has it out for him.
Yeah.
It's not the case, man.
Racial.
Like you can try to do that and try to perpetuate it on social media.
Yeah.
It is the biggest lie if you want to buy into that, because there's not one lineman that I've ever met that's like, oh, Shaduer's in, I'm going to go and throw in the towel on my career and play crappy so he gets sacked or he doesn't shine.
Let him get hit.
Yeah, let him get hit. Like, what player have you ever heard of who's doing their best to make an NFL roster? Not just the Browns. Because those guys have to play for every other team, too, that they're on film for. And pray to God they get picked up either by the Browns, their practice squad, or somewhere else on an active roster practice squad. So can we just stop this? It's madness. It really is. Someone tried to compare it to Tebow. I said, let me just first explain this to you about Tebow.
Explain.
Shedeur can throw the football. It starts and ends there. Like there's no comparison between those two. Shedeur can play at the NFL level throwing the football. All right? Like, that's just, and that's not me, like, it's been anything other than pointing out the fact to you that, like, he could sling it. That was Tim's biggest issue coming into the NFL, is there was a lot of concern about whether or not he could at the NFL level do it. Shedeur can do it. So don't try to compare, like, oh, it's the fandom and everything. No, it's not. It's completely different. It's a completely different scenario of circumstances. What Shedeur entered into, what Tim entered into, what Tim's struggles were, what is being asked of Shedeur right now. It's like it's night and day.
You want to know what's
let's just
funny
stop
about
the
that?
madness, man.